Guys, Yeshivas Bein Hazmanim, take 2. We're going to talk about Esrog today. If we have time to get to Adasim and Aravos, we'll see. We're just going to get to the tip of the matter, pun intended. Let's get started. Okay. So, Esrog, one of the psulim of Esrog is if it's yavash, dried out. That is not very common. You don't have to worry about it. One case that I did hear that it could happen to yavash, or dried out Esrog, is, I don't know if you ever, I've heard people have tried this, I've never tried it. You get like a gorgeous Esrog one year. So what do? You stick it in the freezer, and then you want to take it out next year. Apparently, I heard if you try to do that, within a couple of days, it shrivels up. Because, I don't know, there's some, so I heard that it's a machlokes in the mitzvah. You tried it?
No, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I heard there's a machlokes in the mitzvah. So what about, could you use that before it shrivels up? If you know that the Esrog is going to shrivel up in 3 days, and you used it beforehand, is it a problem? Is it pshat that's really internally shrivels and the outside catches up, and therefore it was possible from the beginning? Or is it that it was perfectly fine, just when you take it out of the freezer for a year, it shrivels quickly? Actually, once saw advertised some whole device to freeze your Esrog. Would that be allowed? Yes. There's no rule that it has to be picked this year, and that would work. Is that practical? I don't know. Is it cool? Yes. Okay, fine. Chaser. There's a problem in Esrog if it's missing a piece. So, you know those guys who, when you're checking for an Esrog to see if it's a good one, they use a toothpick to try to remove all the dots? So when you remove all the dots, you could also remove some of the Esrog, which is not cool. If somebody has years of experience, maybe 200-300 years of experience using the toothpick, maybe they should. But for everybody else, probably shouldn't. Yeah, maybe whatever. There are other things to use. Somebody wants to get rid of the spots. You can use blue tack, if you know what that is, the sticky stuff. A piece of gum, that would work too. Or if you want to use those pieces of the wrap, the foam thing that they use to put the Esrog in. You rip off a piece of that foam, that's fine. Oh, what I have is one of these guys. I have special, I'm a special guy. So I have one of these. I'm the only guy with one of these. But this is a good thing to go. It's like a lollipop. No, it's actually my wife's a speech therapist, and it's something that they use to whatever, push the tongue somewhere or whatever. But really, why Hashem created it is to clean us regular. So that's the real truth. But I'm the only one who's that cool. Whatever. And Binyamin. Fine. And Shmuel Tivya. Okay. Fine. So that's what you really, something soft to use so you don't actually make it into a chaser. Now, what exactly is the chaser? There's actually 3 levels of Esrog. The top level doesn't make it a chaser. The second level is a machlokes. If you know what, the inner whitish whatever, that's a machlokes if it becomes a chaser. The Mishnah Berurah is Mekel. The third level, the mamish, the kishka, is the inside that everybody holds. If you take away a part of that, it's a chaser. L'meis l'chatchila, we're machmir. La'alacha, even the second level is not going to be a chaser. When you're looking for an Esrog, you're looking for an Esrog that has no chaser at all, and it's not missing anything. So the toothpick, well, you're right. The toothpick won't make it treif unless you But the mice, we're not cool with that. We're makbid. The anhaga of the velt is to be makbid that it's not chaser at all. Okay. What else? Now, I'm going to lose my voice. Okay, black dots. This is the biggest issue of an Esrog. The biggest issue is a black dot could passel an Esrog. Now, if you look at an Esrog, there's the main body of the Esrog, and there's something that we call the choitim. The choitim is approximately the top third from the body when it starts angling in to the pitim. That's the most important part. If I'm going to look at an Esrog, I'm going to spend the most amount of time on the top third, from where it starts curving in towards the pitim, through the pitim, the choitim. A black dot on that choitim passes the Esrog. Now, what's considered a black dot? Okay, take out my magnifying. What do I check? So le'alacha, it's if I go like this, I look, and if I don't see a black dot, that's not considered a black dot. Now, If I'm blind, that doesn't mean I can have a big fat black dot. It has to be somebody with normal eyesight. Who has normal eyesight? Me. No, I'm saying anybody who has relatively regular eyesight. And if with your glasses you have relatively regular normal eyesight, so that's fine. You don't need to be a regular normal eyesight type of guy. You hold it around this far away, you look at it, twist. If you don't see any black dots, it is kosher. But we like to go and, now why does anybody have a magnifying glass? Now, I definitely use one of these guys, right? Why does anybody use these guys? So as I told you yesterday, one of the reasons that I use the magnifying glass for the lulav is very similar in the Esrog, because they look very stark. Number two is, it's very fun. Yeah, yesterday I'm looking, nobody knows who I am. This guy came over to me, asked me, can I look at his Esrog? Because I look very stark. I had a magnifying glass. So that's why it's very important. The other reason why it's very important to have a magnifying glass is it's easier to tell whether a dot is black or brown when you look under a magnifying glass. It's not necessary, but it's an aid. It makes it easier to tell. Now, if you see the dot under the magnifying glass and you can't see it over here, it's perfectly fine. It's a perfectly kosher esrog. Listen, we're Jews and we like pre-Eitz Hadar. We like to do things mahadar. There's a old minhag of trying to find beautiful shayna esrog, and we want to get it with no black dots altogether. I want one that I won't even see a black dot with magnifying glass. Now, is that required in halacha? No. But is it beautiful? Yes. Okay? Fine. So that's black dots on the top. The bottom 2/3, before it starts tilting in, the non-chaytim, it could have a black dot. It can't have, if it has 3 black dots, one on this side, one on this side, one on this side, it's a problem. You have to be able, if you could turn it in a direction that you won't see a black dot, then it's kosher. Once again, same judgment of what a black dot is. And, obviously, less black dots, the better. Fine. Brown dots are okay. Now, something called bletlach. Bletlach, I could call it a scab, the English word, but I won't look as stark or sound as stark. So I have to use a Yiddish word. I'm going to call it blettel. So if there's a blettel, or bletlach in plural, on an esrog, so that's like the leaves or whatever, it makes like this stuff on top of the esrog, the discoloration on top of the esrog. The maisa, on the chaytim, you don't want any bletlach that stick up. Some bletlach are like sticking up on top of the esrog. Some bletlach are relatively smooth with the esrog. If it's relatively smooth with the esrog, that blettel is fine. But if the bletlach are raised above the top chaytim of the esrog, the Mishnah Berurah is not very happy with it. The Maisa, the velt is still makel with it. How does that work? I don't know. I don't decide what the velt does. I just work here. And the Maisa, the velt is still makel by a blettel that on the chaytim when it's raised. On the lower part, if the blettel is raised, it's going to be okay. The blettel is the scab. It's like a little, you see like something like a growth on top. Yeah? Fine. Now, another thing is, esrog is only okay if it's an esrog. If an esrog is, if you get a lemon, you ever hear that expression when you buy a car and the car was a bad used car, it was a lemon? Where do you think that expression comes from? I think that when that guy says in South Africa, America, wherever it is, that car was a lemon, I think where that comes from, I assume, is when you buy an esrog and it's a bad esrog, it's a lemon. Because, for a regular guy, what's wrong with a lemon? So that's where I think it comes from. Don't buy lemons, buy an esrog. Esrog has this, we know it's bumpy, etc. That's why we want it to look like an esrog. Now the problem is, the Taimani esrogim look like this. The Chazanish esrogim look like that. The Moroccan esrogim look like this. Everybody has a Messiah. You buy something that looks like it has a Messiah, that looks like what we call esrog. That's the most we could do as Yidden. It's very hard for us to know. I haven't been around for 2,000 years to remember exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu, or 4,000 years. I don't know what Moshe Rabbeinu's esrog looks like. but it definitely didn't look like the other guy's Esrog. Fine. Okay. So, fine. What else do we got? A pitum. A pitum is a hiddur. It's a hiddur if you have a pitum. It's a good thing. But try not to get one of those pitums that are going to for sure fall off. The really thin, like really, dried out, whatever.
Every year pitum was fell.
My pitum. Well, that's also try not to let your little brothers play with your esrog. That's also the skula for your pitum to fall off. Now, lamaisa, even if your pitum falls off on the second day and on, it is kosher. But you don't want that. Okay. Hadar. Yeah, but it's kosher. Seder.
Give it to you.
Beseder. So, now, I just said a pitum, if it falls off, it's a problem. But if it's that, whenever I buy an esrog without a pitum, wait a second, how do I know when it fell off? So there are simanim that when you guys get very experienced, to be able to tell whether the pitum fell off when it was on the tree or when it fell off when it was off the tree. If you see that it's dark over the pitum, there was a scab, whatever, that grew over where it fell off. Now here's the chiddush. Scabs don't grow on esrogim when they're in the box. They're only going to grow and change color to get darker on top of if that was on the tree. So if it's pure white, it's a little bit hard. There are people that could tell, but it's very hard to tell when it came off. But once it's changed color on the top, then you know it was on the tree when it fell off. The other thing is apparently when it's indented, then it's much more likely that it fell off on the tree, whereas when it's flat, it's much more likely that it fell off the tree. So those are the basic simanim. But there are people that just know by looking at it. I can't explain it. I'm not even myself one of those guys exactly. But there's people that just know by looking at it. With experience, you could just know. Okay.
What is better, bumpy lulav or regular without one?
Esrog?
Esrog, yeah.
A bumpy esrog or
Esrog without.
or a pitum? So
No.
Bumpies are good. Well, I'm gonna get the bumpy in a second. Bumpy's good. It's not a lemon. Now the pitum, by the way, I just said regular in Paiskim. Rav Yashiv says that once it's recognizable as an esrog on the tree, it's like a third of the way grown. If the pitum falls off, then it's puzzle. So if you're a Rav Yashivnik, you really want with a pitum, because anything without a pitum, it's going to be very hard to know if that pitum fell off when it was pre a third grown or post a third grown. Very difficult to know. I don't know if there is or isn't a way of knowing. I'm not really sure. I don't know how they do it in the Rav Yashiv camp, but that's another reason why it's a mela of a pitum, because I don't know how you know when it fell off. So according to Rav Yashiv, no. According to the other part, if you knock it off, I don't know. Good question. I don't know the answer. Okay. Next. One more point, a good point, is that you shouldn't borrow an esrog without the person knowing, if it's the type of person that's going to be makpid, which is a lot of people. So if you're going to borrow somebody's esrog and esrog without them knowing, make sure they're the type of guy that's not makpid about it. If they're makpid and you're using an esrog hagoizel, that is not cool. What else do we got? No, I'm not talking about the lakicha. There's a point, actually, I'm talking about the first day, which I wasn't talking about, which is a good point. The first day, there's a chiyuv that it has to be your lulav and esrog. So therefore, you can't take somebody else's. So what's the trick? First, let's start off with your over bar mitzvah, because this is easier. If you're over bar mitzvah, the trick is somebody gives you the esrog, but not to use their esrog. They give you as a matana amanas lahachser. They give you the esrog and the lulav, the arminim, on condition it's yours. You are the owner, on condition that you'll give it back to them. And if you're a bar mitzvah boy and you're giving to your friend on the first day, you give him a present on condition that he gives it back to you. So that's what you have to do on the first day. Now the problem is, if you're under bar mitzvah, you could get it. You're not able to be machnet to somebody with pashtus. So it gets a little
So
complicated.
there anyways under chinuch, so you give them to, and it's
So there
still
are
yours.
those that say that, but you're not supposed to say that in the shir to kids.
I know.
Um,
I just touched on to it before that.
Fine. So, if you have multiple boys that need to use the same lulav and esrog on the first day, who have multiple boys in the bar mitzvah, it's a little tricky. Bekitzer, give it as a matana manas l'hachshir to the oldest boy, and afterwards the younger boys could shake it. Whether they should make a bracha or not, I don't know. Fine. But the later days, you don't have to be the owner. But I think a lot of people are makbid anyways to do this mahalach of matana manas l'hachshir in the later days as well, even though it's not actually required. But what I was saying beforehand of making sure that the guy, if you're using it without permission, only on the type of person that doesn't care, that's so it's not a stolen lulav or an esrog, right? Okay, fine. Now, color. So it's best, it wants to be hadr. So l'chatchila, you'd want it to be a relatively solid color, not like patches this and patches that. It's kosher. I'm not saying it's not kosher, but it's not hadr. It's not beautiful. Now, in America, they like yellow esrogim.
Why?
Because that's what's considered beautiful there.
It's nice.
In Chazar. That's nicer. That's nicer. So, and Yeshivas says even here it's nicer. In Eretz Yisrael, there's different. Some people think a yellow esrog is nicer. Some people think one of those light greenish esrogim are nicer.
Some dark.
The dark green, there might be some people that like the dark green esrog. I just don't know what they're talking about. But okay. Okay, so that's color of esrogim. Bumpiness. It should be bumpy, not smooth. But, crazy bumpy, it doesn't need to be crazy bumpy. It's not a problem. But it doesn't, fine. In terms of surah, shape. So, it's getting late. Oopsie. Okay, let's finish up. Shape. It should be shape, preferably it should be diametrical. They didn't teach you that word in Cheder, huh? It should be even on each side. And if it's even on each side, then diametriatia. Huh? Symmetrical. Sorry, you're right. You're actually right. I was trying to sound fancy. Oh, yeah. And I got corrected. All right, you're right, actually. Symmetrical. It should be symmetrical. So it should be equal on each side going up. That's l'chatchila. But the evidence, fine. And you also want it straight. You're looking for one that's straight. You want the pitim straight. You want the oikitz, the bottom stem. You want it straight. These things are not likuva, but they are. If you want a shiny esrog, if you want it to be a beautiful esrog, that's what you're looking for. And guys, you should be zeicher to find some beautiful esrogim.